Welcome to The Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. About time I made a video. Haven't forgot anybody. Still looking at everything going on, watching. Reminds me of 2014 at first. Kind of paying attention, but I know there's definitely some significance going on with everything that took place in September and stuff. Just didn't know what it was yet. Still don't know exactly what's going on, and I don't know if we will until afterwards, but there's enough events taking place right now that I figured that I need to talk about anything, really. I don't really always have that many people to talk to, but I can talk to you guys, so that's good. I thought about making a few videos here and there on the way, but every time I did, I just kind of stopped and thought, well, you know what, there's enough of that stuff out there, right, for people to find. They don't really need me to say anything about it, but there's been a few different topics, but forget all that. The main reason I want to talk is what's going on over in the Middle East. It is about to explode over there, and it is getting really exciting. We're seeing end-time events taking place that look so biblical. Ezekiel 38, 39, Damascus, Isaiah 17. Everything looks like it's just about ready to pop. At the same time, we also look like we're dealing with World War III here. And that gets interesting because of the point of the second seal looking like some sort of world war, and those don't frequently happen. So for that to take place and looking like it's lining up, it looks more like the second seal is about to pop loose at all, and Gog and Magog could just be an aspect of that takes place during that time, which all points to the nearness of the return of Christ and the rapture. So that's one of the reasons that I pay attention to that kind of stuff. It really is lining up over there. We've got so many players in play, and they're just itching to go off over there. Israel's shooting up Iran over there. Iran's coming up with lame excuses to get on the border that they want to work with Syria, but we all know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to sneak in, take out Israel, which is what they said they want to do the whole time. Benjamin Netanyahu knows exactly what's going on. They've got the deep state going after him right now, which they know that if they can get him out of the way, they're not going to have a strong leader, and they'd have a better chance of attacking, which is what that exactly looks like. And so that whole thing is slimy as heck. But, you know, that's what you expect from them. The Obama administration hasn't gone anywhere. They're still working behind the scenes with stuff. The whole thing just reeks of suspicion. North Korea is still lined up for an attack over there. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But, I mean, we've heard that Intel says that we might go to war with them right after the Olympics. I mean, everything is just right on the brink of happening. And it's getting really exciting. I can't not notice it, but I definitely want to talk about it. And, you know, this doesn't look like it's going to get pushed off anymore. I said that back in 2016 because I thought it was going to happen then. Then Trump came in, kind of slowed it down. Then it looked like it was coming again. But, I mean, how much can it possibly get pushed back before finally the whole thing just breaks? And that's what it looks like. We're like at the breaking point. How much longer can it go on? At the same time, I'm looking at May coming up here. It's going to be 70 generations since Israel was made a state officially. You know, so I look at that stuff too. Is it going to take place before that, fulfilling that generation won't pass away? Is it going to line up to a generation of strength before 2027 or 28? I mean, what exactly is it going to go? But it looks like it's going to happen sooner than later. Meanwhile, Agenda 2030 is pushed to Agenda 2021. They want to push the chip. We see more in-time beast system stuff taking place with artificial intelligence, demonic activity inside those quantum computers. They're called demon. I mean, it's crazy. And there's the spiritual aspect of it, more crazy stuff's happening, and it seems like it's happening more at a faster pace. Just saw an article today, a guy who's skiing in New York disappears. They find him in California, in Sacramento, where he calls his girlfriend. He's all dazed, confused, gets a haircut first, which makes me, it sounds just like some Flight of the Navigator, if you guys remember that show from the early 80s, that Disney show where the kid gets taken, goes back to his house, but nobody's there, years have passed, but he's still the same age. It's kind of like that. He goes through like some time portal. He's over in California. He's still wearing all the same ski clothes and goggles, you know. So, of course, the government's going to try and cover it up just like they do with Bigfoots and other stuff like that, which they do all the time. But they're always covering up for that. I mean, you got sheriff's departments, stuff like that have dealt with Bigfoots before and taken out whole families of them, but they keep it under secret. They don't want the public to know. The government swoops in. All comes down to Nephilim DNA and other things like that are created beings, dimensional properties that can transmute between this dimension and the next, and they don't want anybody to stumble upon that, start doing any sort of testing where they can find that, because anything that points to a biblical narrative is going to throw off the whole alien agenda end time thing that's been planned for so long and is getting ready to be unfolded here during the tribulation, that they don't want anybody to screw it up. You know what? Nobody might see this stuff now, but during the tribulation, if someone would happen to stumble upon a video like this, it could help them out. And that's one of the other reasons that I do this, to talk to people, because I might not be able to help them now, but maybe later it will help somebody. And it's all about trying to get more people to heaven, just to help them out in any way that I can, and to have information or knowledge and be paying attention to it. It shouldn't be wasted, and it's kind of a responsibility that I should talk about this stuff. Sorry I haven't talked to or made a video in a while. Been under the weather, but definitely paying attention to stuff, and haven't forgotten any of this, and been paying attention. There's so many things going on. Don't get wrapped up in anything. Cryptocurrencies and all that other nonsense. I mean, seriously. Yeah, sure, you can make money off and stuff like that, but, I was just talking to somebody today. Where do you draw the line on this? The cryptocurrency thing is so borderline close to the step right before the beast system, or the mark of the beast. I mean, why would you even want to mess with that, even if you can make money? What if you make a few $1 million and you're so jacked about it, but then all of a sudden, okay, the only way we're going to use this for security purposes is you got to take a chip in your hand. Are you willing to give that all up? It's going to be harder and harder, which then stumbles into what Jesus said about the rich man getting into heaven. It's easier for a camel to go through the needle of an eye, because when you start to have those riches, it starts to be like, and you start questioning, and you don't have your heart in the right place, which is on heavenly things and getting out of this place. So I don't mess around with any of that stuff. Do I know that the dollar isn't backed by gold? Absolutely. They dug into Fort Knox a long time ago and took all the gold out of there. Give me a break. They've taken all the gold out of everything, and then when people ask for their gold back, we see in like Canada and other places, they find out it's like tungsten steel with gold plating on the side of it. Where are they taking it all to? They probably got in underground bunkers and they're hoarding it and stuff like that for whatever reasons. Or maybe they're giving it to fallen angels or using it for other technologies, or the secret space program, or any of that stuff. Who really knows? But, at the same time, right now, you can take that dollar or dollars and you can go buy stuff, and it's kind of a physical thing to hold on to, and it's further away from the electronic credit system, which is going to be how the chip works, that you get the mark on your hand or on your forehead. And for that reason, I try to stay away from that stuff as much as possible, all the way to the point that I had a gym membership when I was up in North Idaho, and I went into them and I got signed up. And you always get a little card or something like that. Hey, scan in to work out. And I'm like, where's my card? And they're like, we don't use that here. We have a hand scanning thing. I'm like, what? And they're like, turn around. I look. I can't believe it. They have a hand scanner for your right hand, of course, that you stick in there. And I'm like, this is kind of disturbing. And they're like, it's no big deal. It takes a picture of your hand. So they took the picture or whatever, and I went home afterwards. I didn't even work out, and it's the shortest membership I've ever had. I go to the gym, and I've had lots of different memberships, but this one's the shortest. I couldn't sleep that whole night. I felt guilty for even having a membership that was that resemblant of the Mark of the Beast. So I went back the next day, and I canceled. And they're like, sir, could you tell us why you canceled? I'm like, your system here, it's half a step away from the Mark of the Beast. The only thing missing is a chip in my hand. What's the mark of the beast? Oh, gosh. It's like, well, in the Bible it talks about that if you take it, you're instantly damned to hell. And I'm like, I don't even mess around with anything that resembles that. And they're like, thinking to themselves it's a snicker. But it's like, you know what? How close are you? You don't even know what it is. You will take it just like that. There's people that are taking it just to log in or get a free soda or something at their place. How deceived can you be? Is it the mark of the beast? I don't know, but it's so close. Would you even want to take the chance? Hell no, you wouldn't. It's ridiculous. You don't want to mess around with anything like that. I've spent my whole life thinking, what would I do if I'm in that situation where it's time to bite the bullet? Am I going to have the courage to say and laugh in their face and absolutely just don't think about my self-preservation, but give it up completely for God? You might get called into that situation. So I've always prepared in any way, stood against a man my whole life, and because in a way I've always thought of it as a testing. If You don't just turn it on when it comes. A lot of people think that, oh, when crap hits the fan, I'm going to be ready and I'm just going to do this. If you don't have the training for it, you're not going to be as prepared as you think. You won't be standing up. You won't be having courage. If you haven't been practicing on standing up against the odds when everybody else isn't standing up and you're all by yourself, if you haven't practiced that or been in that kind of situation where you've stood for something, I'm telling you right now, there's a 99% chance you're not going to do it when your life's on the line. But if you have and you know what I'm talking about, then yeah, you have a better chance. But my point is that I've kind of preparing for this ever since I was a little kid. I've always stood against stuff. I've stood against jobs. I've stood against corruption any single time. And most of the time, like every time, I turn around and everybody who's complained along the way with me isn't standing with me. I stand alone every single time. I've had to do this against the United States Army and everything else, and it has been tough. There's been times where it's against the world, and it literally has said Jared Beeler versus the United States of America, or some other line like that, and it's like, you know what, this is really long. The one thing I always have had, though, is God, and for that reason, you know, it's worth it. But I've always thought of it as like a practice. What if I do have to go through it? What if the rapture doesn't happen first, and they break out that beast system? Am I going to be ready for this? I need to have balls of steel if I'm going to do this. And so that's kind of how I've always looked at it. I don't mess around with that stuff. For that reason, I stay away from this crypto stuff and everything else. I'm not looking at making money right now. And the ones that are, you look at AMT and stuff like that, yeah, sure, those guys, he's great and everything like that, maybe. But at the same time, what is he showing? He's showing an amateur Christian level, a beginning Christian. Is that wrong? No, you got to start somewhere. But this is the whole name it and claim it, I'm going to be blessed, head not the tail stuff, and not the persecution. Or should you be going after riches? Sure, we all got to make money and stuff like that, but when do you cross the line where it becomes the love of money, you know? You got to be careful. Being a Christian or following Jesus has never been about being rich or making money. You're going to go through hard times. In fact, he says you're going to go through hard times. Your family will even betray you at times like that, you know, and hopefully that they don't. But it's going to be you against the world, and it's your decision on how you're going to handle that situation. You don't want to mess around with that stuff, especially now. Are you paying so much attention to that? You're not watching what's going on right now? We're on the verge of biblical prophecy taking place with the Ezekiel 38 war taking place, and Damascus getting destroyed in World War III, and these things are lined up at the same time that we have possibly the false prophet in play, or the forerunner to him of the St. Malachi prophecy. So it's like, wow, we got the last guy here. The whole reason I took credence to this Revelation 12 sign, if it was or not, is because it wasn't that it was happening, it was when it was. On a feast day, the next one that's pointed in line, you know, and then when you put the other stuff in play, the 7-year cross that takes place with the eclipse, the pyramid angles, and all these other different things that take place with the Christ angle inside the pyramid, and the prophecy about how there's going to be a monument in Egypt for the end times that have to do that God left there. There's all these different things, and when those take place and you're looking at it all, it's like, wow, it gives it credit. But then nothing happens. It's like, well, what the heck's going on now? Have I thought it's out of the line? No. Like some have said before, maybe it's a signpost, and there's nothing wrong with that. The point is, did you want it to be a signpost because you really don't want to go to heaven just yet, and you're still looking at the world? That's when you start to be disturbing. If you're not, and you're making the point that, hey, it was a signpost that things heaven ahead, this could be the start of the stuff. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Did it look like it to me? Yeah. Could I guarantee it? No, I couldn't. I said, you know, 99% the way it lines up. I've heard of other things before, but I'm like, not like this. This really lines up good on a year that also lines up with Daniel's prophecy of the days between 7 years to 2024. It's like, man, did this actually start the tribulation? Of course, nothing has happened yet. Has some stuff happened? What if Trump turns out to be the white rider, and the next thing that happens with World War III is the second seal taking place? That would change the game really fast. That would mark possibly the start of the tribulation perfectly with what happened, and maybe that's exactly what it was. Or maybe it's not. There's a lot of things that got to weigh and balance here at the same time. At the same time, I'm looking at my Rapture vision that I had back in 2014 and where I was. I was up in North Idaho. What was I doing up there? Who knows? Alien ship shows up. I'm looking out the window like, oh, great. Right at that time, I get yanked through the roof. Incredible experience of going up in the Rapture. The most amazing, happy, joyous feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. I cannot think about it. Why do I still put that into play? Because I am I'm staying with my brother right now, working on different jobs and getting myself situated. I just got a new job. I'm about to start here soon, but need to get out of his place in my own place. All my stuff is still in storage in North Idaho. I've got to go up there and get it. The way that it's looking, it would be sometime in May or spring. That also lines up around the time of the 70th generation. So I'm weighing that at the same time. Was my vision just an experience of what it's going to feel like? Was it an actual time and place of where it happens and I actually got to see the future? How much of it was what I'm showing or not? I know the joy, for one thing, was absolutely the rapture. That was a real experience. I've never been that happy in my entire life. It was absolutely incredible. You know, how much of it do I weigh? Is the whole thing absolute? I've also talked to God about it at the same time and asked for confirmation. I'm driving across the bridge, and at the same time, thinking about it, boom, here comes a silver bug, which is exactly what my stepfather was driving in the vision, which he doesn't have right now. Maybe he'll get a new one. I have no idea. There's just so many things I'm weighing, but I'm paying attention at the same time at all this, and also preparing, you know, a little bit. Am I going to have some food? What if we do go through a little bit of this first? I've never been somebody that believes in post-tribulation rapture. I believe in a pre-tribulation. I also believe, you know, that I've looked at it before. What if the seals take place a little bit first, and we go out around the 6th seal, and the trumpets are the start of the tribulation? Could be. I'm going to always hope for we get out of here before any of it starts. What happens if we go into World War III right now, which is what it looks like? Would Trump be the White Rider? Would this all include with the Revelation 12 sign from September 23rd? Would the seals be breaking, and would we go through the seals? The next thing to look forward to would be a total economic collapse everywhere and hyperinflation. If that were to happen and wars going on right now, I would say that the seals broke. So then I'd be like, okay, let's look at the next timeline. It doesn't matter what timeline he comes. I'm sold out for it. I'm going at life or death. Do I want to go at life? Yeah, absolutely. Let's get out of here while we're still alive. That's going to be awesome. If not, am I prepared to die? I've been training mentally my whole life for it. So, yeah, I'm ready for that too, whatever it is. Do I want to go out first? Yeah, absolutely. Let's get out of here in the rapture, pre-tribulation situation. But I'm looking at all the situations, and you know what? Why not talk about it? Because, I mean, we're all looking at this thinking, coming up with ideas and stuff like that at the same time. There's tons of information coming out about all this taking place, and it really is starting to look like it hasn't faded away. And I know it was kind of feeling hopeless there for a while with everybody after it didn't happen in September. Did I want it to happen? Of course. I always want it to happen. I've been looking for it since I was a kid, and I always want it to happen, and I am so jacked for it to happen. It's going to be the most awesome thing, and getting a taste of it in that vision, oh my gosh, the flight, the eagle vision, the power is indescribable. It was so awesome, free, liberating, just incredible. So Superman-ish, Dragon Ball Z, totally badass. There is no real way to describe it. It was just totally awesome. I loved every second of it, and I'm so grateful that I got to show it. Does it make it hard sometimes? Yeah, because once you have a taste, it's like, oh, I want it. It's like the people that are blessed enough they got to see heaven, and then they come back down here and they're like, it doesn't matter, the brightest day down here is like a dark alleyway compared to up there. It's just awesome. You don't want to come back, you know? It's kind of like that, getting a vision. It's just super exciting. Keep your mind on heaven, because that's what's most important. You know, I don't know exactly if I want to talk about anything in particular on this video. I just want to, you know, let you guys know that I'm still paying attention. I haven't forgot. I haven't stuck my head in the sand. Still deal with everything that you deal with in this flesh, and I can't wait to get out of it. Sin and everything else. Always got to ask for forgiveness every day. I try to repent, and I'm still, you know, striving towards it. Totally saved by grace. There's no way I can be good enough. And sometimes I think that is the lesson why I struggle with sin, and why other people do too, because we can sometimes so easily get in this mentality like, yeah, I'm doing really good, I've earned God's love, and then we mess up and we're like, oh no, I hope he can forgive me. Of course he will, if you ask him. And you know, he's always there to help us, and he's totally saved us by grace, even on our worst. He saw you all the way written out from the very beginning. All the times you're going to mess up in your life, he's seen it. He knew about it the whole time, and he still died for you on the cross, you know. You're totally forgiven if you ask him. So we're totally saved by grace, and it's for this that we thank him, and we do try to do our best for him. Not because we're somehow going to be holier than thou or get extra, but because, you know, it's it's gratitude for what he did for us, and that's why it's important to do it, you know. But stuff's really lining up, and I love talking about it. I love talking about the rapture. I always do. I talk about it all the time. As you notice on most of my videos, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Stuff looks good though. I see people around the world getting married, giving in marriage, everything it said it would, leading right up to the end of days. People, you know, you talk to them about it, but some of them, and most, let's just say most of them, aren't paying attention or can give a crap. And the ones when it really starts to line up and they're like, hey, let me point this and this and this out, you start to see fear in them. I don't want that to happen. What, the rapture? Heaven? No, not yet. I want to see this or that, or I got this dinner plan, or I have a vacation plan. It's like, can you really compare that to going to heaven? You have a worldly mind. It is going to be so badass. But you know what? You're going to get your chance, because if you end up staying because you didn't want to go, and you're not getting dragged to heaven kicking and screaming, no, I don't want to go up there. You go up there because that's what you're looking for in the first place. You love Jesus. You've asked him in your heart. You realize that's the only way. You're saved by grace. And you want him to grab you out of here whenever that time is, because you know it's going to be awesome. If you have that kind of mentality, yeah, you're getting out of here, of course. Just like he said. If you don't, you know, you're in danger of staying. And then you were going to be begging to be going up there. Oh my gosh, why do I think this vacation is going to be so good? That place has been totally hit by a nuke. You know, seriously. So the whole thing's just silly, but keep a heavenly mind on everything is what I'm saying, and definitely be paying attention, which I know a lot of you are that watch my videos and stuff like that, and that's good, because it's about to happen. Like I've said before, it just keeps looking like it and looking at it. Like one of these times, it's going to actually happen. We're going to get out of here. The whole thing's going to break loose, and we don't know exactly when, and we might not. You know. I heard something interesting not too long ago. It was, they were talking about Scripture. Scripture was written about thousands of years before Jesus even showed up. But in that Scripture, everything is described and what Jesus was going to go through for us, right? Well, at the same time, Lucifer and his goon squad know the Bible perfectly. They know it better than most Christians. And yet, with those scriptures there, they could not figure out that he was going to die for us. If they would have known that that was the way that salvation was going to happen, they would have done everything they could to keep him alive instead of trying to kill him. This gets on to the next point. We might not be able to know exactly when the rapture happens. Did it look like it was lining up for that and it was point blank, like, yeah, this really does line up? Yeah, and I will say it. I'm not going to be jumping or flip-flopping around. It really looked like it could. Did it happen? Of course not. We're still here. But at the same time, are we going to be able to see? We still feel it getting closer. The Holy Spirit in us knows it's getting closer. We see each sign taking place. Will we know exactly when it happens? What it looked like back in September as that we would, wow, I didn't think that we would, but it kind of does, so I'm going to have to say, hey, it does, might not be the case now. It could happen, total surprise, which is what I think is going to happen. Will it somehow line up? I think it absolutely will. I think that we might be looking at something and then boom, we're out of here, only to find out later, oh, this is an actual day. The days got mixed up on this. This is a feast day that it's going to fulfill exactly when it's supposed to, and this day starts. And it's exactly in the order that it needs to, and only after will we realize. The same way when Jesus died on the cross and then they realized, oh my gosh, all the scriptures was fulfilled perfectly. So in that way, God can keep everything hidden. From Lucifer, from us, from anything that he needs to keep his plan for his purpose. If he knows it's better that we don't know about it, then the enemy won't know when it happens either, and it'll screw up their plans, you know? So that could be his goal. God gets to do whatever he wants. He can keep us blind to all of it, but at the same time, he also reveals it a little bit at his time to people that are looking for it, to who he chooses to. Maybe to me, maybe to somebody else. You know what? That's his choice, and he gets to do it. But stuff is really lining up. They do have an idea of it. Just like Ellie Marzulli was talking about not too long ago, I thought it was kind of interesting because I've been on the same idea, but not with the same script, not with that scripture. He's talking about when Jesus cast out the demons, the legion, and the demons say, Jesus, what do you have to do with us before our appointed time? He makes the point that the demons even then knew there was an appointed time, a time in the future when the judgment and stuff was going to happen to them, when this was all going to break loose. Do they know the exact day? I don't think so. And just like we don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but they have a rough idea. This gets into the interview I did with Linda Moulton Howe, that chick private investigator from UFO hunters and everything like that, when I was doing my thing about the Sphinx in Alaska that they played on Coast to Coast Radio, I wanted to talk to her about some different stuff, but at the same time, I'm always looking for a chance to tell somebody about Jesus and helping them. And I know that this lady, having interviews and meetings with people in the Pentagon and 4-star generals, nobody's going to talk to her about Jesus the way that I would. So I was like, I got to take the chance and at least try and point this out for this lady, because it might help her out later, you know, which is mostly her belief in some New Age spirituality. Aliens are going to save us and other stuff like that. So I tried to persuade her in the other direction. Actually, they're demonic beings, it's Nephilim spirits in organic bodies. There's a bunch of different versions of them, and it's all part of the end time plan, you know, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, one of the things she said was, during the meeting, one of them in the Pentagon, and I think she's talked about it before, but this is during some private, after our interview, conversation that went on for about an hour. We were talking about some secret stuff, and about UFOs and everything like that, and all the different things that the government knows and talks about and everything like that, which they deny, but it all actually happens. And one of the things is the aliens told the government, at least this aspect or level of the government, the lower one that maybe believes that they're good before you get to the topper ones and know exactly what they are because they're working with Lucifer and everything else, and they're totally fine with that because they think they're getting power from it. But the aliens told them that they put Jesus, John the Baptist and Osa, which is I think an Indian spiritual leader, here, and they did it from 2,000 years ago to prevent a disaster that was going to happen 2,000 years in the future. Okay, right there. They're total compulsive liars, so don't believe that crap at all. Did they say this? Oh, of course they did. They want to take credit for Jesus until they're abducting you and you cry out in Jesus' name and they run for their lives. They have no power over Jesus. It's ridiculous. The point is they said something there that I thought was very interesting. They said for an event that happens 2,000 years in the future. Just like those demons that Jesus was casting out from the guy and the guys in the grave, the legion, they said, Jesus, what do you have to do with us before the appointed time? They said for an event 2,000 years in the future that happens. If it worked, it would save us. If not, we were all going to die, blah, 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 right? Well, they gave away a little hint there. They said 2,000 years in the future, and I thought that was very interesting. They know the timeline. This 6,000-year timeline I'm always talking about that was put into play that represents a week of 7 days, the last week being 1,000 years, the 1,000 millennial year reign with Jesus on earth, and our 6,000 time period here, it was 2,000 years ago. They said for an event 2,000 years in the future. They know the timeline, that it's going to be somewhere around this time, and I think they always have, that it was a 6,000-year timeline. I think they've always known about it, but do they know the exact day? No, I don't think so. I think it's hidden from them, the same way that stuff is hidden from us, but it's going to be revealed. They know it's getting close, and we can see it pushing and getting closer. None of this has been thrown out. It's not going to be going on for hundreds of more years. We are reaching that critical time. We can feel it happening. It's going to happen in our timeline. You know what? So if you've lost hope, don't lose hope. They're still looking for it. Just keep cinched up and get ready, because this is about to still go down. You know, the more this is going to happen, I'll try and make some more videos or whatever, but I just want everybody to be paying attention, because it hasn't stopped at all. It's still continuing on exactly like it has. Did it happen when we wanted it to? No. It can't ever happen fast enough for me. I want it to take place. But at the same time, you know, it's still at a steady pace. It's picking up. We can feel it getting closer and closer and closer. So are we paying attention like we're supposed to? And it says in the Bible, yeah, we are paying attention. We can feel it drawing closer. We're looking up at that time. He's not going to catch us off guard because we want it. We're going to be looking up when it happens. We're expecting it. We're not getting involved in the world in a whole bunch of silly nonsense, cryptocurrencies, and other silly crap that are only going to be pulling us away in riches and other nonsense that have nothing to do with it and are part of the Laodicea church. It's going to be left behind. It's going to be left behind. Sorry to say, but if you're in it and that's the mentality that you're into, and you don't really care about God or anything like that, but it's all about being blessed or going to church and believing some crap, or who you're going to hook up with at the church, you're not really paying attention to God at all. And that's why I don't really have anything to do with church, which I've said before. We are the church. I've always said that. We're the called out ones. You know, it has nothing to do with the building. Can you go? Sure. Are you going to learn a few things? Absolutely. But you will never have the relationship you have is when you step out, you're reading and talking to God, and your reliance comes on Him. When you're not going to a man or somebody else to look up to, but you rely on Him, and you might not get the answer right when you want. You have to have patience. Talk to Him. He reveals it when He wants and at the time He wants. That's how it grows. That's how your relationship with Jesus grows. And then when stuff takes place, you have that personal relationship. You don't have to look up to anybody, and then you don't have fear, you know? when you've dealt with all this stuff. So I wanted to point all this out, bring it to light, and talk about it. But anyways, we'll catch you next time on the Elysium. Thanks a lot. Bye.